I'm David T. Little, I'm the composer of the next piece, and the sky was still there, and I wanted to, while the piano is being moved, isn't that the best sound ever? I love it. That happened before during rehearsal. I was like, yes. So this is a piece I wrote in 2010, based on an interview I did in 2005. I have an opera called Soldier Songs, which is based on interviews with veterans of, I think, 5 different wars. And Amber Ferenz, who's the bassoonist who I met at the Aspen Festival, was one of the veterans who I interviewed. One of her stories didn't make it into Soldier Songs because it was so unique and so special that it stood out from the sort of other stories that I was hearing about experience in combat. So I put it aside, and many years later had the chance to write a piece for Todd Reynolds, a collaborative project with Todd, and this story became clear that this is what the piece should be. So it's on the one hand, it's about Amber's experience in the military, just in general, about her experience going through the MEPS process, basic training. And then her story takes a slight turn, and I won't get into that, but that's really where the piece kind of comes alive. There's a quotation also from Utah Phillips. Anybody know Utah Phillips? Yeah. One of the someone very close to my heart. I had the chance to meet in the early 2000s, and from an interview he did with Amy Goodman about when he joined the Army. He said, "Yes, I joined the Army. Some people learn things the hard way, but then you never forget them." I hope you enjoy the piece. The video that you'll see is by Luke Dubois. The piece was done in collaboration with Todd Reynolds. One last thing, so great to hear appreciation of Pete Seeger. I also want to mention his dad, Charles Seeger, and his mom, stepmother, Ruth Crawford Seeger. Ruth Crawford Seeger, great, super important avant-garde composer. Charles Seeger, great avant-garde composer, one of the first people to really write, often in the Daily Worker, about music and politics. So it's great to have the Seeger family present tonight. So hope you enjoy the piece. Thanks so much.
As you would if you were actually in combat and crawling, you would want to get closeted in the military is unbelievably difficult.
She was in the Navy, I was in the Army.
You have to act as if nothing's wrong when people bash on gays all around you. You have to sort of go with it, or it will come down upon you too.
We were in Arabic class together. We fell for each other really, really hard.
If you tell, you get an honorable discharge. If they ask, and you tell, you get a dishonorable discharge.
But all of a sudden, I was too tired to get out of my car. I was sitting there looking across the flight line. There was a chain link fence in front of my car that I parked up against, and the sun was coming in through the front window. And I felt very warm and very cozy, and I could see the dust motes in my car in the sunlight, and it was beautiful. And I'm looking at that fence and the sky and the flight line and being exhausted. And it was like everything stopped. Time just stopped. The dust motes hung suspended. And I heard a voice that said to me, if you care about the state of your soul, if you care about anything at all, if you want to continue to be a good person, get out. You don't have much time. Get out. Get out now. And then the dust motes started up again, and the sky was still there, and the chain link fence. But I had changed. I was done. I had quit. In that moment, I understood that I needed to get out of the Army. My mother and I